Hi, everybody. I wanted to talk today about something a little bit more personal in my life, which is really about taking accountability for yourself, for all the different points and structures that are going on in your life. I used to be really afraid of taking accountability for certain things, for my finances, for my relationships, for my business. I would a lot of times collapse and go into victim mode and wait for things to change, tell God that it was time to change fate and give me a different set of cards and blah 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 blah. And it didn't go so well because you were given this life and this soul, and God gave you and sanctioned you to be queen or king of this soul, to really create change for this soul, to lead this soul, to work through some stuff with this soul. And people get confused that taking responsibility for their life or taking accountability means doing it alone. And that's not true. What taking accountability means is owning all of it, that it's all your responsibility, and finding the way to get it done to create change. And that can be through so much support. So I'll give a couple of examples, but one is that I have so much fear. I used to have so much fear around money and taxes and investments. And I would just kind of ignore it and ignore my bank account and ignore everything. And one day I realized, like, I really want to start investing. I really want to start creating a retirement fund. And I can't, I freeze. So I literally asked my dad to sit next to me until it was all done. And he sat next to me and he's like, okay, well, that's good. You seem to have it, like, you seem to got it covered, like, once we were pressing all the buttons and everything. And I was like, no, you are sitting with me until it shows up on my email that it's all complete, because the second he leaves, there'll be a computer glitch or it'll ask a question that I don't know what it means. And then I'll freeze again and then I'll distract myself. And then I have to go to my session. Like, I will always find a way not to do it. So, no shame in the things that cause you freeze or like panic or anything like that. That just means you need more support. So taking responsibility for yourself and accountability just means, what kind of support do you need in that moment? Another example is I've done a lot of hard things in my life. I've through hiked, I've gotten lots of degrees, I'm in my doctorate, and I am petrified of getting my ears pierced. I am 30 years old and I never got my ears pierced. And it was always on my to-do list and I always pushed it off because I was scared of it, all these things, stuff around it. And my friend's family came into town and I mentioned I want to get a piercing or I want to get my ears pierced. And the sister said that she also wanted one. And right away, of just like, let's go right now before I decide something differently and get my ears pierced. And the both of us got our piercings done. And I also had to call my best friend and video call her while it was happening. Like, it's okay. Doing it does not mean doing it alone. It just means owning it. So there are areas in your life where it's easy to take responsibility. Maybe that could be cleaning your room. Maybe that could be showing up to work on time. You all know the areas where you do it. It's easy. It's fine. It's the areas where we feel like, too scary. Because whether we like it or not, we are responsible for our entirety of our lives. Every part of our lives, we're responsible for, no matter what. Doesn't matter if you have a partner who's really good at it. Doesn't matter if there's structures already in your life that give you kind of like the freebie for it. You are still responsible for it, because if it does collapse, if it does shut down, you do not want to be in a place where you don't know how to do it. You don't know what you need. So really getting a clear idea, if, let's say, I had one client who, um her, she did, it was more of traditional roles, and her husband was the one who took care of all the finances, and he died pretty suddenly in his 40s, and she was left with a financial mess that he left for her and never told her about it, and she had to learn in her mid 40s everything about finances all at once. So don't wait for those moments. Rather, and she did it beautifully and she rose to that responsibility and she's wonderful and incredible. But if you're listening to this and you know that there are shadow corners, don't ignore them. Let yourself look at them and let yourself get the support that you need to start including them in your life. Responsibility is actually really, really, really fun. maybe not judging it up to that, but when I've taken responsibility for my life and when I've actually looked at certain things and gotten the support I needed, it's like breaking down a language that you've never learned. At first, it sounds like gibberish. Slowly, you'll start recognizing words. And then at some point, you can start playing around with it. So for finances at this point, I ended up hiring a really close friend who would meet with me every 2 weeks and we'd go through everything and began building a structure around my finances to the point that now I have confidence to do it on my own and it feels fun and exciting. And when I ignore it and when I go back and slide back into that fear state around it, it gets messy again. So when I own it and claim it, it actually feels really good. I promise you that there is a version of yourself that takes responsibility of all those shadow parts and corners of your life. And she exists and she's actually remarkable. So please take away the illusion of like, or all those stories of I'm not responsible or I'm flighty or I'm wobbly or I flounder because that's just been the dance you've been playing until now. Once you actually reach that part and move with that part and own that part and bring it in and create a structure with it, there's a part of you that you actually really, really, really respect and honor. And she's actually incredible. I'll leave with one last example. I can talk about this forever, by the way. It's my bread and jam. Oh, I think of two more things I want to say. One is I was living with roommates for my whole life. And when I was 25, I think, yeah, when I was 25, I decided that I wanted my own place. My business was starting up. I wanted an office, and that would mean doing a really adult thing of signing a lease for a year for a 2 bedroom apartment for just myself and taking on that financial responsibility of a lease, of getting rent on time, having a month before, a month at the end, all paid up, all the scary municipality things I have to pay for, all of that. And it was this big leap from this person who always had underwear in her backpack because every time she left the house, she might sleep over somewhere and a toothbrush. Like I was living in more of that of like I'm hardly at home, free for all, totally like free spirited person who like barely needed an apartment anyways to becoming someone who was assigned contracted to a year-long 2 bedroom apartment in Jerusalem. And it was a big leap. And I remember something about taking that action brought up a side of myself that I didn't know I had, and I actually really enjoyed being in. She was this version of myself that was organized, responsible, responsive, structured, so much spaciousness. And I ended up creating this beautiful home, this beautiful office. My landlord said I was the best tenant she ever had. Like, and it was this side of myself that I never knew I had if I didn't sign. So it's sometimes it's you don't have evidence of a version of yourself because you haven't yet stepped into it. So you sometimes have to actually just step into that version for that version to show up. So please don't look at the past and say that this is who you are and this is who you're not. That's not true. You can always change. You can always literally just engulf or annex a part of you that's already there. She's just in the shadow. Oh my gosh. All right, one more thing. Okay, so I like want to say also that your word is so important that when you sign a contract or agreement, you are also taking on all of it. You are taking on the consequences of it. You are taking on if it goes well, if it goes bad. And the person that you're signing the contract with is also showing up and taking on their responsibilities of what they're offering you. So when you do sign a contract, whether that's investing in coaching, whether that's for a apartment, whether that's for whatever it is your responsibility to really like look around and see what you're getting and ask all the questions you can. Take responsibility. You know yourself. If you say I have these tendencies, what would happen if this and like ask all the questions, get all the answers. And when you do sign, then you own it. Then you say, I will show up. I will do what needs to happen. I will take responsibility because the contract itself is there to bring up a different version of yourself. The contract itself is there to ask you to step up and step into a new version of yourself. So contracts are so freaking sacred. Your word is so freaking sacred. And own all of it, the good things that come with it, the bad things that come with it, because it's all there to create something within you. This is obviously not saying if you sign a contract and then the other side doesn't bring what they promised or it's a scam. That's not what I'm talking about. But there is such sacredness in containers. There is so much that can happen when we create for that. If you want to feel stable and secure, having a shelter is part of that. If you want to feel love and security in your relationships, having a label is part of that, or having a container is part of that. So, all of these things, all of these things, all of these responsibilities, really what you're doing is you're just creating a container around a part of your energy that is looking for a home. Okay, yeah, that sounds really good. I'm gonna leave it there because I could keep talking about this forever. I hope you guys have such a great day, and I'm proud of you. And step into those versions of yourself. They exist. They're here. I believe in you. And have such a wonderful day. Bye.